Your authentic self is your superpower. And if you say that over and over again to yourself like a mantra, you will start to believe it. And then you may even start to access your superpower because that's why you were born. Your authentic self is your superpower. Think about that. Why else would you have been born? But I'm talking about it today because I want you to understand something. Um, it's Mother's Day today here in the US. And my mother passed, she about 14 years ago. And just before she passed, she had cancer, uterine cancer, and she also had dementia. So before she passed, though, when I would go to visit her, she would come up to me and she would have these papers, and she goes, "Roger, these are helping me so much." And I go, "Oh, yeah, right. Okay, it's your dementia, I understand." But every time she would print them out and she would hand them to me. These are helping me so much. And what she was showing me were my Wilhelm messages that I wrote every single day. And she's reading them as she's moving through this process at the end of her life. And she's saying, they are helping me so much. And I'm saying, no, that's just because of your dementia. That couldn't be going on. That's not me. I couldn't have done that. That was the self-denial that was going on, which is the other thing that we do too, which is why we have to keep saying, my authentic self is my superpower. Then we start to believe it a little bit more. And then the other thing that happens when you do that, you begin to heal. You begin to accomplish things you can't even imagine because you are now aligned with your soul. You're aligned with your soul's mission. And so these things that you thought were impossible before, you're starting to be able to do. But you still have to keep convincing yourself that you can do it because you're only doing that in your consciousness. And our consciousness is always limited. We haven't done it before, so how could we believe that? You see? And so as I kept going on these past 14 years, I go, was she right? Was she, what she telling me, did that mean anything? And then what I started to see is that as I kept receiving Wilhelm's work, that I kept healing. I kept getting better. I kept going in the opposite direction. I go, wait a minute, I'm 73 now. How am I getting younger? How is that happening? And then I had to go back to thinking, wait a minute, my authentic self. My authentic self was to become a mystic and a sage, and I was going to bring in information that was going to help our world. Couldn't believe that one either. That's a self-denial again. And so we have to keep working through that. So again, I have to say to myself, my authentic self is my superpower. And then what happened was miraculous things kept going on to the point where I thought, I've got to tell people what they can accomplish. But then I would run into the same thing because I started doing that about 3 years ago. And then I said, you could really change your life. You could have everything that you want. You could have the right career. You could have the right relationships. You can have abundance. And all you have to do is just go inside and figure out who you are and become your authentic self. And then people will look at me and say, that's not possible. I thought, I've been dealing with that one for years too, because I can see what you can do. My client yesterday pointed out to me, or 2 days ago, he sends me a text and he says, did you ever consider that maybe the reason that you're able to create this work and read people so easily is because you did all this vocal coaching forever and you saw the insecurities in people? And I said, oh, you're figuring out my plan now. You're figuring out my secret. There's no way that you could spend 35 years coaching thousands of people and not discover something. I just didn't know that it was going to turn into a philosophy. I didn't know it was going to turn into something that could give any person the ability to become their authentic self and live this magnificent life. And if they were to do that, we would eventually have this much better world, you see. I couldn't believe that one because that would be me accepting my authentic self, and that could be a superpower. And so then when you can't do that, what you do self-sabotage. When we talk about self-sabotage, what that means is that you're refusing to own the next portion of who you are that you discover, because it's always something more. As long as we're alive, there's more we can do. Doesn't matter how much you've accomplished, how much money you have, or any of that, because you know something within you says there's more I can do. And you've probably felt that as well as you've looked at the world over the last several years. And if you're a person who was kind of sensitive, you think, wait a minute, things are supposed to be better or different. And you were the one to do that. But again, we would have to accept our authentic self to believe that was possible as well. And so when I discovered in 2021 that I was given all of this work, I mean, it's been 35 years I've been doing it, but then I was told that I was given something very specific for this time in our world that would help individuals live these really great lives, and then we would up level the consciousness of the collective of everything. And if you listen to my last Wilhelm channeling session, the last couple of, they said, we've given you everything that could heal your life and your world, and the only difficulty is you don't believe it. And they were correct because I didn't believe it, even though I'm experiencing the healing. Because the healing is about you coming into ownership of who you are. It's about moving through all your difficulties. This is the ascension process, moving through your dark nights of the soul, whatever you've gone through, all of your judgment, all of your hatred of yourself, all of those things. And then you begin to heal because the energies of the universe will start to agree with you. And then you start to manifest this incredible life. I'm saying all this today because I am preparing for a show where I'm going to tell more of the story because I want more people to have this. I want more people to understand what is possible, what you can accomplish, because when we do that, we will have this very different world eventually, because that's what we can give to our kids, to the generations that come later. That's what we're supposed to do. Um, and as we evolve, we give something to others. It was really challenging for me to tell everyone, wait a minute, I've been through every horrible thing imaginable in human experience, and I healed through this work. But that's the story that I'm going to tell because I want to leave this with the world so that we know we can create something different. Because, see, what I was told is that this work would cause the individual to figure out who they are, create this great career, live this wonderful life, become abundant, become happy, have the wonderful relationships, and then eventually they would pass that on to their kids. We would let go of the judgment and hatred and racism, misogyny, all those things would be gone, and we would have this much better world. And that's doesn't even seem possible until you experience it, until you start to live it and feel it. And that's exactly what this work did for me. I can see things in a different way. You move over your fear, you move over your doubt of yourself. Those are the things that happen. And then you start to move beyond your disbelief. See, because that's the other thing. We don't believe what we can accomplish, or we don't believe what we've even done before. And I'm saying this today because we're going to move through some challenging times in the next several days, but and over the next several months, but in the next several days, and specifically the rest of this month in May. But I'll give you some help. Wilhelm told me that they gave us all the guidance because, see, we will evolve in our consciousness a bit at a time. But if you go back to any advice for today and you start reading the messages from May 13th, tomorrow, it'll give you some help because it says we are accelerating rapidly because there'll be energies happening, there'll be energies moving. Now, I couldn't have told you that I received this before and knew what it was going to mean today, but that's exactly what happens. But the other part of that, please read all of the messages through the end of May in 2023, and you will find that you feel better as you're moving through your life and you start to understand the ascension process because that's what this work is. It's an ascension guide that takes you to the highest level of who you can become. And the more of us who do that, we have a really, really great world. So I wanted to give that to you today. Have a wonderful Mother's Day. Those of you who celebrate that or whatever, but all of us want to acknowledge our mothers or wherever we came from. And this is a great day to do that, because then you'll start to put more the energy of love into your life and then into the world. And that's what this is. And so just understand, please join my community. If this is your first time on my channel, subscribe and share it with others, because I'm going to continue to give so many others this work, because I want you to know the life you can live, how much younger you can become, how much happier you can be. All of those things are possible. And I know this because that's what I did with this work. See you guys soon.